What if the biggest casualty of a trade war isn't a foreign company, but a small American business that never even got started? What if the real cost isn't what you pay at the store, but the innovations and opportunities that quietly vanish before they ever see the light of day? When President Trump launched his aggressive tariff campaign, it was framed as a bold, patriotic strike to protect American industry. It was a story of economic warfare, where tariffs were the weapon. But the story they never told you, the one hidden behind the headlines and political rallies, is about the unintended consequences. It's a story of hidden costs, broken supply chains, and a complex ripple effect that ultimately landed on the shoulders of the very people it promised to protect. And in this video, we're going to explain exactly how that happened. We will uncover the three biggest hidden costs of this trade war: the supply chain chaos that crippled small businesses, the silent killer of American innovation, and the devastating counterpunch of retaliatory tariffs that hurt workers right here at home. Finally, we'll show you the data that proves who really paid the price for it all. This is the financial autopsy of that trade war. We're gonna peel back the layers of political rhetoric and uncover the real, often invisible economic fallout. We'll expose how these tariffs created a chaotic maze for American businesses, how they silently choked off innovation, and how they ultimately acted as a stealth tax on the American consumer. To do this, we'll follow the money, not the talking points. We'll look at the data, the business case studies, and the economic principles that politicians often ignore. This isn't about politics, it's about the blueprint of how a single economic policy can set off a chain reaction that no one saw coming. Imagine you own a small electronics company in Ohio that assembles a popular new gadget. For years, you've sourced a critical microchip from a reliable, efficient supplier in China. It's the best in the world for your needs, the key to your product's quality and competitive price. Then, overnight, the government imposes a 25% tariff on that chip. Your cost for your most essential part just jumped by a quarter. This isn't a negotiation, it's a sudden, unavoidable tax. Your first reaction is panic.
I'm gonna kill myself!
You scramble to find a new supplier in Vietnam or Mexico, but their facilities aren't as advanced, their quality is inconsistent, and their production capacity is smaller. Your entire supply chain, once a model of efficiency, is now a chaotic mess of new logistics, uncertain delivery times, and higher shipping costs. The owner, who had once planned to hire 5 new technicians, is now staring at their payroll, wondering who they might have to let go. The American dream of growth is being replaced by a desperate fight for survival, a fight not against a foreign competitor, but against a line item on a government spreadsheet. This wasn't a hypothetical scenario, it was the lived reality for thousands of American businesses who found themselves trapped not by foreign competition, but by their own country's policy. But the most insidious cost is the one that happens next, in silence. With your company's profits now squeezed by higher costs and logistical nightmares, you look at your budget for the next year. The plan was to invest $100,000 in research and development for a new next-generation product. That plan is now dead. The money that was meant for innovation, for hiring new engineers, for creating the future of your company, is now being used just to survive the present.
The tariffs from China was 54%. It looks like tomorrow containers that I will receive, I will have to pay 104%. You can't plan a business like that.
This is the silent killer of economic growth that tariffs ignite. And this wasn't just happening in one company. It was happening across entire sectors. While American firms were tied up in a defensive battle against their own economic policy, their international rivals in Europe and Asia, free from these self-inflicted burdens, were aggressively investing in the next generation of technology. The tariffs didn't just raise costs, they effectively spotted the competition a massive head start. The hidden cost wasn't just a more expensive gadget today, it was a less competitive America tomorrow. And while American companies were fighting to reconfigure their supply chains, a counterpunch was being thrown that no one could dodge. The tariffs weren't a one-way street. They triggered immediate dollar-for-dollar retaliatory tariffs from other countries, most notably China. Suddenly, American farmers who had spent decades building relationships and markets abroad found themselves locked out. The story of the American soybean farmer became a brutal case study. China, once their largest customer, slapped heavy tariffs on their products. For context, American soybean exports to China plummeted by more than 70% in 2018 alone. Farm bankruptcies in the Midwest surged, hitting levels not seen in over a decade. These weren't just statistics, they were family farms passed down through generations being wiped out by a geopolitical chess move. An entire industry, a cornerstone of the American heartland, was thrown into crisis not because of a bad harvest or lack of demand, but because they had become collateral damage in a trade war they didn't start. They were casualties of a strategy that promised to put America first, but instead cut off their access to the rest of the world. So where did all these costs, the broken supply chains, the lost innovation, the retaliatory tariffs ultimately land? The final unavoidable truth is that they landed on you, the consumer. The political rhetoric sold tariffs as a bill that China would pay, but the basic laws of economics tell a different story. Multiple independent studies, including landmark research from the National Bureau of Economic Research, confirmed that American consumers and businesses bore virtually 100% of the cost of these tariffs. That extra 25% on the microchip from our Ohio company, that wasn't absorbed by the Chinese supplier. It was baked into the final price of the gadget. Furthermore, the policy often failed to even bring production back to the US. Instead, it created what economists call trade diversion. Instead of buying a taxed Chinese part, companies would buy a similar, often lower quality and more expensive part from a country like Vietnam or Thailand. The production didn't come home, it just took a more expensive detour. And the cost of that detour, it appeared on the price tag of your new bicycle, your child's toys, and the materials for your home renovation. The higher costs for washing machines, for tires, for furniture, all of it was passed down. The tariffs didn't function as a clever tool of international negotiation. They functioned as a simple regressive sales tax, disproportionately hitting the budgets of ordinary American families. In the end, the story of the tariffs is a cautionary tale. It's a story about how in a deeply interconnected global economy, you cannot build a wall without trapping yourself inside. The stated goal was to protect and strengthen American industry, but the hidden blueprint of the policy often led to a weaker, less innovative, and more expensive domestic market. It reveals a fundamental truth of modern economics, that capital, goods, and supply chains are like water. They will always seek the most efficient path. And when you dam that path, the pressure doesn't just disappear, it builds and it floods in places you never expected. It forces us to ask a critical question as consumers and citizens. When leaders promise simple solutions to complex economic problems, are we willing to look past the rhetoric and understand the true hidden blueprint of who really pays the price?